Hi, Riv. My name is Melissa Kranzo, and I go to the Holt venue. I have been around Riv for a little over 20 years. So over the years, I've been a part of a lot of different ministries, but currently I have the privilege of teaching and leading some Bible studies and also being a part of the Riv Women's Ministry that we're starting up soon. So I hope that you've had and are having a really good week. I hope that this time at home has been sweet in some ways and giving you a little bit of time to maybe prepare for the weekend. I know for me it has been in that way. Just some time to read through some of these stories and think about Jesus's life and the things involved leading up to what we're about to celebrate this weekend. So today we are going to look at two different accounts that might seem, and well, they are very different, but they are kind of one and the same as well. So the first one is Jesus was in Bethany and Mary comes and anoints him with some really expensive perfume. And then the second one is Judas's decision to betray Jesus. And these are, might not seem related at all, but in 3 out of the 4 gospel accounts, they are told directly one after the other. And so this juxtaposition is actually showing us that they're kind of one and the same in that they're stories about a response to Jesus. And so you can find this in, I'll be reading Matthew 26 today, but you can also find this in Mark 14, Luke 22, or John 12 if you want to look up in any of the other gospels these accounts. So Matthew 26, 6 through 16 says, "While Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper, a woman approached him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume. She poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw it, they were indignant. 'Why this waste?' they asked. 'This might have been sold for a great deal and given to the poor.'" We know Judas is actually the one who said that, or at least led that way of thinking. In John 12, it talks about that. Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a noble thing for me. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. By pouring this perfume on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly, I tell you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, the man called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" So they weighed out 30 pieces of silver for him. And from that time, he started looking for a good opportunity to betray him. So we see here these two different responses to Jesus. They both knew Jesus very well. We know that it's Mary from the other accounts. Mary was the sister of Lazarus, who Jesus had just recently brought back to life. And Mary is also the one who, in the story where Mary and Martha are serving, and Mary is commended for sitting at his feet and listening and valuing what is most important, the spiritual. This is the same Mary. And so here she is doing that exact same thing again, valuing the spiritual over the earthly and having a spiritual perspective on things rather than an earthly perspective on things. And that's one of the contrasts that I saw here, was that Judas had, in contrast, a very earthly perspective on things and was not looking at things, it just was not seeing Jesus in the correct spiritual way. And because Mary has this spiritual perspective, she knows the amazingness of Jesus. She recognizes him as a Lord. She knows that he is the fulfillment, that he is the Messiah that has been promised. And her response to him is one of just amazing worship. And when I read this, I actually thought of something that happened about a year ago, and with my 4-year-old daughter. So, bear with me. We were in line in Disney waiting to see Minnie Mouse. And at the time, she's 4 years old now. She was 3 then, so just about to turn 4. And as you can imagine, a line for Minnie Mouse was about an hour, and that's a long time for a 3-year-old. But as we got closer and closer, and as we started to be just minutes away from being in the presence of Minnie Mouse, my daughter started shaking. Her whole body was shaking with excitement and anticipation. And then she started frantically just looking all around, and she spotted on her wrist her bracelet. And her bracelet was her most prized possession in all the world. That is why she wore it to Disney, because you wear your best to Disney when you're 3. And she said, took it off her arm and said, "I want to give this to her." My first reaction was, no, you don't. You're overcome with emotion right now, but you're going to regret that. That's like your most favorite thing. But I didn't say that. I thought it. I didn't say it. I said, okay, I want to encourage her generosity. So, okay, if that is what you want to do, I'm sure Minnie would really love that. And so as we got into the room and she stood before the presence of Minnie Mouse, I will always remember that. The shaking, the joy, the excitement, and especially as she handed over her most loved treasure and Minnie accepted it, her joy was complete. And it struck me in that moment that even from the time we are so tiny, that when we are in the presence of something great and the thing that we love the most, we cannot convey in words. Our response is to frantically look around and give the most important things to us and pour out our lives in order to express and show that to the person that we're trying to convey that to. And so I think that's what Mary was doing here and did. She knew that Jesus was coming into town, frantically looked around, found this, her most valuable thing, and went and showered Jesus with it. And Judas, on the other hand, he is not responding at all in a way, obviously, of worship. He has a very earthly perspective. He thinks that Jesus was hoping he was the Messiah, but his idea of the Messiah was going to be a powerful political leader, a civic leader. And as he saw that Jesus was not going to fulfill his idea of what the Messiah should be, he said, "I'm done. I'm about to hand him over." And so was willing to sell him out for 30 pieces of silver, which was the price of a slave, and in a Jewish mind, the equivalent of the price of contempt. And so I just see that there are many, there are actually many other comparisons that you can see here, but that was just one of them that stood out to me. And as we come up to Easter weekend, I think about how I want to be like Mary. I want Jesus to say of me at the end, "Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." And I want people to remember Jesus by what it is that I do. So I hope that you continue to have a great week, and thanks for hanging out for a little bit, and we hope to see you back here tomorrow morning.